Hello and welcome. Today I am going to be going over a basic rig that I use for when I'm playing VR. A lot of players just entering into the competitive scene have a difficulty using free-handed controls and movement, what's colloquially known as freehand, and would prefer to use a gunstock. However, the cheapest gunstock options on the market are going to run you about $50 to $60 at the low end. The high end and quality gun stocks that you're going to want to get usually run from about 80 and can range all the way up to I think $130. Obviously, that is a very limiting factor for new players and players who are just looking to get an entry level. So I made my own for about $20. This is what I call the Home Depot gun stock. I like how janky it looks, and I'm sticking to the name because I find it quite funny. It makes it very satisfying when you shoot somebody with a $20 gun stock that's running a $130 gun stock, also known as a B&Q Special. This entire layout cost me under $20. I think it was 18 and some change in US. I'm not sure what that is in pounds. Aside from the actual strap that holds the gun stock, the parts are relatively cheap. We're looking at $1 a piece for a total of like 13 parts. I'll include the cost list in the description. Some things you will need that you probably already have, or if you don't already have, that will run the price up a bit, but you can still keep and use for your own purposes. It's not required, but I use a PVC cement and primer. Let me see if I can get that to focus. Focus, yes. You'll want to use the full set. What one does is primes the PVC for gluing, and the second one will chemically bond the two pieces together. Once they are fused, that's it. There's no removing them. There's no making adjustments later. It is locked in place, and you can beat the absolute crap out of this gun stock, and it will not cause any problems. So, today, the finished product that we're going for is going to look... This is the finished gun stock. You can see head on. Very interesting profile, I know. It's very Dr. Seussian. But the idea being that the strap goes over your right shoulder or left, depending on if you're lefty. If you are a lefty, all of these setups, the directions that they're going is just going to be reversed, and it'll end up with a perfectly acceptable lefty gun stock. So you have the full parts list in front of us. We're going to need 1 3/4 inch PVC pipe. You just need the one. The scraps that you cut off will end up becoming the rest of the handle. 2 PVC P-traps, also in 3/4 inch. 3 PVC elbows at 3/4 inch apiece, and a 3/4 inch end cap. You will also need to purchase a basic strap. I bought this one also at Home Depot for about $5. Came in a pack of 2, so I was able to make a secondary one. And we're going to assemble this from scratch, beginning to end, and one go, so that you guys can see how quickly you can put it together and how low cost you can make it. Now, mind you, everything is adjustable for the most part on this, so you can make minor adjustments for your own personal feel later. Well, let's get into it. First thing you're going to want to do is glue in your PVC P-traps, because we know for a fact that those are going to be staying in place and they're not going to be moving. Okay, so we're going to take our purple PVC primer. Purple primer, can you see that? You can see that. We're going to run it around the edge of the P-trap. Yes, that's just the name of it. I didn't come up with it. I realize these are plumbing supplies. It is what it is. Run it around the edge. You don't need much. A thin layer. We're going to set that aside to dry. Run off any of the excess off the side of the... Here, let's make this easier. I'm going to remove all these. I'm a professional, by the way. And we're going to run a thin layer around each end of the pipes. We'll let that dry. Also, bear in mind, these cans have a tendency to get stuck after you reclose them. Just a simple pipe wrench will usually pop off the tops for you. Let that sit and dry for a little bit. So first we're going to need an end cap and one of our 3 elbows. Light coating of primer in the end cap. Yes, it looks messy and ugly. You can paint it afterwards if it really bothers you, but at the end of the day, it's not that big a deal. I like that it looks janky. You can't see it in VR anyway. We're going to take our PVC cement, and we're going to dab off as much of the excess as possible. Brush applicator usually inside the can. Your results may vary depending on what you're using. And we're going to run it around the end of the S bend of the P-trap. So the side that is 90 degrees to the start, that is going to be the one that we start with here. We're going to run a thin film around the edge of that. And in one motion, quickly and effectively, we're going to push the end cap directly onto the end. This will begin gluing itself permanently, and it is never going anywhere. We now have the first step, the base of our buttstock. I know, crazy. Now we're going to do the same thing before you begin gluing. Pay attention to the orientation of that 90-degree. We're going to want to make sure it lines up with the edge of this bottom. Let's get this out of the way. Okay. Once again, we're going to prime the inside of the 90-degree bend. Let that dry off. We're going to take our P-trap, and at the longer end, we're going to add some PVC cement, and taking very much care to make sure that this is centered and straight. We're going to attach that on. Readjust. You get very little work time before it starts permanently staying in position, so really make sure that that's nice and straight. It helps to look directly down the barrel. See how we have a nice straight line to the bottom. That's what you're going to want. It's okay if you have some runoff. Like I said, the uglier it looks, the funnier it is when you use it. We're going to set that aside to dry for a second. You can see already we're getting somewhere. This next section is going to be where we rest our actual hand on the stock. So we're going to get into that. All right, some time has passed and we've dried a little bit. We're going to take our PVC cement. We're going to run around on the inside here. Does not require much, like I said. It's going to form a very strong chemical bond. Now our work time is very short, so we want to make sure that this is as 90 degrees as possible. Follow the curvature here. So think of it like the bend of the S-trap, the P-trap, is going to come towards your hand. You're going to come around on the edge and rest on here. Woo. Okay. Now, the next step that we're going to be doing is we're going to take one of our elbows, and it's going to come onto the end here. Now, if you notice, this elbow, if I were to put it on, goes straight out, which means our hand would not be lined up with our hand that will be moving forward, which will be out here. They'll end up offset. To fix this, we're going to cut the P-trap backwards until we start to reach an angle. We're going to use the full advantage of that angle in a second. Okay, let's get to cutting. I'm going to use the original here for reference, just to make it easier on me and so you guys can see what we're aiming towards. Our length of PVC pipe, if it helps you to already place it on the elbow, then by all means do so. Our goal is to get the elbow from here to roughly about here. So we're going to have to cut to that length. And we can make final adjustments as we go and make little more cuts. Remember, you can always cut more. So cut shallow and then adjust later. And you can never cut less. Once you've cut it, there's no adding more back. So start in increments until you get to where you want to be. In my case, I want to get relatively close to where it starts to curve, but just before that. Any tool for cutting PVC pipe will work. PVC pipe cutters are great. Regular standard pipe cutters will work in this scenario. I'm going to use a Dremel tool because it's what I have. All right, we've taken off our little bit that I've accidentally primed. All right, so you'll see the P-trap is cut just before it begins to bend, similar in this to this first one, so that when we connect our elbow joint in, it should connect at a slight angle. You'll see it's not quite perfectly straight. We want that. This will let it curve slowly back into line with the rest of our body. We're going to put this down, get this thing out of the way, and continue from this position. Now, it's very important that you do not glue this in just yet. We don't want this to be permanent because we're going to make minor adjustments later as to the angle of that. We're going to take our length of pipe, add it into the end, and you can see we're already most of the way there. This first one has a really nice angle that I'm a big fan of. I got it first try by accident. Nice. I'm going to match that. Yours is going to be personal to you. Some people have longer arms, some people shorter. So if you cut this pipe shorter and bring it in closer, you'll get a shorter length. If you cut this pipe longer and bring it out farther, you'll get a longer length. It all depends on your comfort level and where you keep your hands at a general position. In my case, this seemed to be perfect for my length that felt comfortable for me, which is roughly where I want to be. The goal is to cut the length of PVC at the point where it intersects with the back. Move this out of the way. At the point where it intersects with the back of your buttstock. So when that bottom meets the PVC, that's where that's going to be. If you bring it in closer, it'll meet here instead. You'll notice you'll get a shorter length. So this, double check, make sure, is my comfort length that I found to be most convenient. Now, if you're not gluing anything, this is going to be where you're going to have the most play, because this is where most of the pressure is going to be. So if you don't glue this in, this is going to be where you'll notice that sometimes if you put too much pressure on it, it'll want to collapse in on you. We're going to grab ourselves a marker, follow that line to the end of the pipe here where I want it to be, and cut a little longer than that, ever so slightly. One, because you can always adjust that later by bringing it in, but you can never add to it. So if you cut it too short, you're kind of SOL. Okay. Please note, it does not have to be a perfect end cut. You can see how gross that cut is. Doesn't matter, the pipe will go over it and it will get sealed in permanently anyway. If you want to be a perfectionist, you can adjust that. But I'm not a perfectionist today. This is a simple tutorial and I've already got a gun stock that I very much like. So I'm making another just to show you guys. All right. So we're going to take this 90-degree end cap, place it over the end just to be sure it fits. And we're going to take a look. That angle does not feel... No, yeah, it is. So we've cut it a little too long, on purpose, by the way, because we can always take more off. We can never add more. So, hold on to the spare end of pipe. We're going to be using that at the end. We're going to take our last elbow, give her a test fit on the end there. You can already feel that's a real tight grip because I've cut into it, so it's not quite going to be perfect. But that is looking a lot better. That looks to be about the length that I wanted. All right, so we're going to take this length of pipe at the end that we've chopped off, clean up the ends a little bit, and place it into the end of that grip. This is going to end up being our grip at the end of the project. Right now it feels monumentally long, but this is going to curve inwards for us. We're going to bring it up to roughly the size of half of your hand. So you can see this full distance is what I'm going to be lopping off the end here. I'm going to take us here and chop it maybe a little extra. Always give yourself some extra room to work with, especially if you make a lot of mistakes like I do. Not that I make mistakes. I make mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes. I'm only human. I'm not perfect. Give yourself a little extra. I'm probably going to cut past that. All right, now that we're back, please note, do not handle chemicals or glues without adult supervision, as well as sharp tools or power objects. If you need help, grab an adult. 90% of the way there. The difference being that this is curved inwards. Now the easiest way to achieve that, yes, that's tape on the end. I could have gotten something soft and squishy like padding, or dipped it in plastic dip, or dip it in rubber cement, but no, I put tape around it because I thought it looked janky and I love that. So what we're gonna do from here is we're gonna pick it up, put it up against our shoulder. You're gonna see it's off camera here, but I'm gonna get it roughly to the position where I feel I would be holding it. Now your hand position is going to be directly above this joint here. So to simulate that position without being able to curve it yet, give that a feel. Get it to where you want to be. And now we're going to curve this upwards. I want to make it very clear, please do not use any flame or controlled heat source without adult supervision. You can do this with a standard lighter or a blowtorch, anything that produces heat, but word of warning, if you're going to use a blowtorch or anything of that nature, please be cautious with the flame and do not put it too close to the PVC. PVC will eventually start to burn. So you're going to use the heat from the flame, not the flame itself, to warm this up. Don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, for today's heat source, we're going to be using a heat gun. Yes, I bought a heat gun. My wife said I'd never use a heat gun, but joke's on her, I use a heat gun, and I love it. Just kidding. Love you, honey. She might see this, so yeah. All right, we're going to take this heat gun. We're going to apply it to the front and back of this handle here. Once you apply enough heat to PVC, it starts to get soft, and we're going to use that to bring this angle back. Make sure it's nice and sealed as far in as it'll go. We're going to take our heat source and we're going to apply it to the interior. Not quite there. There we go. It's going to start to curve in on itself. That fold is good. We're going to bring it to around here so it's nice and straight vertical with that back end cap again. You can see that position. And I'm going to hold it here while it cools back down. If you have a little bit of water, we can sprinkle some water on there and that'll speed up the process. I happen to have some water, so I'm going to grab that. Whoa, where'd everything go? Just kidding. I did a clip. All right, I've went and got some water. I'm going to dip my fingers in the water and just disperse it on the heat to cool down the section. All right. Now that we've got our positioning of it, you can see this is starting to take form. Look at that. That looks like a gun stock. Okay, we're most of the way there. Here's what we're going to want to do. We're going to stick a strap on the end here, attached to the very back, so that we can have the strap be a sort of pull rest for us. The easiest way to do that is we're going to cut 2 slits into the hollow PVC, and we're going to run the strap through those slits, and I'll show you a trick to doing so with the end here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take these tin snips and cut a hole in the end of the strap. Make sure the hole is nice and small so that the end of what we're going to be using, which is a zip tie, there is Mr. Zip Tie, goes through the end of that hole. We're going to take it and run it through so that the zip tie gets caught in the end. And we're going to fold the end of this here. Make sure the zip tie is plenty curved. You can do that by simply bending the zip tie, since it's plastic, unlike the cloth here, and hold that nice curved shape. Can you see it? Yeah. We're going to run that through the end of each of the holes that we just made. Fold the bits of cloth together and pull her through. Hopefully, I made the hole big enough that the zip tie wants to go through it. Seems like the case, yes. Very good. Sorry that I'm doing it off camera, just very finessing. All right, can you see that? I've pulled it through with the zip tie grabbing everything, and we're just going to pull it the rest of the way. Look at that. Just look at it. Now that we've got that through the end here, you can see where this is going. We're going to remove our little zip tied section. You can chop off the bit with the holes if you're lazy like me, though, you won't even bother. Bring it around to the end of our clips here and run these right on back through. We should have a nice position to hold. Just like that, we're 90% of the way there. You notice I can still adjust this. Now, that looks remarkably close to where we started. I'll put them side by side so they really look close. Look at that. So take note that I have also turned this end slightly inwards to give me a nice positioning that I enjoy gripping from. Since we haven't glued anything in, to do that you literally just turn it. So once we turn this in a little, we have a nice positioning, and if you look straight down the line, one hand holding, one hand at the front, will hold like this, one hand at the back, standing here. You'll end up with a nice orientation for your own personal gun stock. This in total took me, what, an hour to build and 18 bucks? Just like that. Now, once you've got this to a nice position that you feel comfortable with, all the orientations feel right, mark the positions with a black marker where you feel that it is most comfortable for you. Mark it on the end here. And once you've got everything to like just the way you like it, you're gonna mark, remove, glue, replace. And that'll seal everything permanently the way you like it. And you can beat the crap out of this. It'll never bend no matter how hard and aggressive you are with it. This thing will last longer than most likely your headset. In any case, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been your tutorial on how to make an $18 virtual reality gun stock for beginners and entry-level players. And honestly, even some of the advanced players could still see use out of this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I appreciate every single one of you guys that comes in and wants to learn how to play and how to get better, and it truly is remarkable to see a community full of people who genuinely have an interest in improving. So I'll see you guys in the next video.